fixed cost. And that's exactly what we, as wholesalers, pay for. It's part of a tariff, we pay our share, and that's what it's based on. If, in fact, congestion should someday, and it's questionable whether there is congestion, but if it should get to the point where you need to expand capacity, then we revisit the tariffs, we pay more, and we pay our fair share.
But we're not there yet.
And we build out the infrastructure.
Steve, could I jump in on that one?
Go, Mirko, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to respond because it's a couple of times now people have said that building extra capacity costs pennies. So first of all, if it's really so...
No, he didn't say pennies. He said they'd revisit it if they had to.
No, but before it was how much does it cost for extra capacity, and pennies was thrown out.
Okay.
So if it really costs pennies to build a network, obviously, we wouldn't be having this debate. As I mentioned, $860 million built on increasing capacity in the last 3 months alone. And let's take a step back. To argue that it costs pennies to build incremental capacity, it just wishes away the fact that you had to have, there's engineering costs, there's network construction costs, there's equipment costs, there's ditch digging costs, there's employee costs. All those fixed and sunk costs have to be recovered somehow, and we recover them in a way that generates a return and allows for more investment so that we can keep pace with the growth. And the best way to do that is to ensure that the absolute heaviest users, and I don't see how this is so controversial, the absolutely heaviest users should pay in exactly the same way as the 98% of other users. It's not that they should pay in any different way. That's not what we're suggesting. They should just pay exactly the same way.
Okay,
and what's
George,
wrong with that?
Quick intervention, George, and then James.
All right, well, first of all, I did not say that building out capacity costs pennies. We all know that it costs a lot of money, but I will say this. A week and a half ago, you said that the capex that Bell spends on internet infrastructure was $6 billion. Then on Tuesday, you said it was $8 billion, and this morning in the Globe and Mail, you said it was $10 billion. I can tell you right now, I'll help you out here. In the last 3 years, Bell spent $9 billion on capex. About $3 million each year. It's actually going down in absolute dollars, and it's definitely going down in terms of percentage of revenues. So let's get that straight. And in addition, you will not break out which portion of that totality you actually spend on networks. So the entire global amount that you spend over the last 3 years is $9 billion. Please feel free to tell us which portion of that goes to build out networks. And then we can discuss how much of that we should bear.
James.
Okay, so there was a wireless network built in 2009 for about $1 billion, and the vast majority of those $9 billion was on networks.
Asked and answered. Next.
Well, and I think this gets to an interesting point in that what we've been talking about a lot is this notion that people are paying too much for their internet service right now. And that doesn't directly link to usage-based billing. If you are concerned about the cost of your internet right now, then you should be addressing the cost of pricing and those sorts of things. Because Bell is not a dumb company. Bell is very good at making money. In the event that they can impose these usage-based billing services, what they're going to do is raise the costs for everybody, and that will trickle down to the small providers as well, because the tariff is charged to how much Bell charges.
Okay, Mike Miner, stand by. I'm going to come to you in just 1 minute, but I want Donald to have a shot at this. You know, whether it's $6 or $8 or $10 billion, we heard it now. It's the number is 9, but I mean it's billions of dollars that Bell has invested to build the infrastructure so that you can watch these shows that you like to watch online. They got to get that money back, right? They've invested the money. They're entitled to a return on that investment so that they can borrow more and build more. Is that not the case?
They do, Steve. They do get paid back quite considerably. The service that Bell sells out wholesales to companies like Teksavvy, they pay a premium for every subscriber, and then I can't remember if it's a monthly or a yearly fee. I think it's monthly to the tune of like $10,000 or something to that extent. On top,
fees, that's right.
and a whole host of other fees. It's not as if Bell isn't getting its money back for allowing these wholesale providers to use their networks, to use their infrastructure. And granted, it is their infrastructure, and I wanted to raise a quick point on the cost of internet. Pardon me. The general average price that most people would spend on internet access is anywhere between $35 to $50 a month. At one point, I remember spending with Bell somewhere around $60 a month for internet access. It wasn't, pardon me, it wasn't limited. I had a 25 gig cap. We moved over to a tier 2 internet service provider where our service is unlimited. We pay considerably less, And that to me was fair, and it's competition, and it's a free market. And if you don't like paying the $40 or $50 or $60 or the extra $5 every gig that you go over, then you find another service provider that is in your budget. The fact that I have the freedom of that kind of choice is important to me as a consumer. If I don't have that freedom of choice, then I'm stuck either way, spending what Bell tells me I have to spend.
We are going to pursue this issue with perhaps one of the most important, historic Twitter exchanges that ever took place between a journalist and a cabinet minister in just 1 minute. But before we do that, Mike Miner is at an undisclosed location somewhere here at 2180 Yonge Street in the bowels of TVO. Are they whooping it up online about this one, Mike?
Oh, are they? There are hundreds of people chatting about this online, and you may not be surprised to learn that the type of people who watch the agenda online aren't really big fans of user-based billing. They're countering a lot of points that are being brought up in the interview tonight. One person wanted us to ask Mr. Bibic. Chris asked, does he think that UBB is unfairly targeting working families because you have a family with, say, 4 people and they have to pay more because they're using more than just a bachelor living in an apartment? But what you're hearing is really not a big picking apart of people's bills, the fact that they're going to be paying more themselves. What they want to see is a change in policy in Canada. Kingston student tweeted and said that we're not against UBB, we're against forcing a business model on third-party providers. They also have the solution for more capacity. Devin Baines translates it into internet speak. He says, "We can has competition, please." And Baloo says, "In light of all the CRT decision, let's hope that Canada seizes the opportunity to change the way we use and pay for the internet. Why, oh why, do we put up with the closed market? Open it up now." And for the hundreds of people that are online, this is pretty typical of the sentiment that you're seeing on here.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Keep moderating the chat, and of course, time permitting, get back to us later if anything transpires in addition. I should, just before we go to this Twitter exchange for the ages, okay, Mirko, do you want to have a shot at that one comment that came out of Mike Miner's online chat there, namely that if you're in a big family and you've got lots of people using online, does this kind of unfairly hit them versus the single person living in their parents' basement who's not really not supporting anybody, et cetera, et cetera?
In fact, what I think will be unfair to that family of 4 is if you can't impose usage-based billing on the absolute heaviest users of the internet. That's what's going to be unfair. Again, to put things in perspective, fully half of the Bell internet users use only about 20% of the amount of usage we give them with actually a light plan, 25 gigabytes. So half of our users don't even use 20% of that 25 gigabyte allotment. So most users are well within their caps. What's going to happen is if you can't charge the absolute heaviest users on the basis of the amount they consume, the rather unfortunate result, I would fear down the road, is that everyone will have to pay more. And that's going to affect that family of 4 far more than probably what their current consumption is in relation to what the allotment is that we offer. So that's a question of actually billing fairness from our perspective.
Okay. I just noticed, incidentally, I don't know if you can see at the bottom of the screen there, they've got the sort of title of the program. It's called WTF is UBB. Okay, well, I think we all know what UBB stands for now. The Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, this is a family program. We're going to leave that to your imagination as to what that stands for. Okay, here we go. February 2nd, the very enterprising CBC reporter Rosemary Barton tweeted a question to the Industry Minister Tony Clement about UBB, and I'll tell you, Tony Clement, you can say whatever you want about him, he is very responsive on his Twitter account to people when they tweet him, and he tweeted out that the CRTC, he didn't like their decision, they've got to go back to the drawing board with their ruling, and then this Twitter palooza happened. Watch the monitors here in the studio, we're going to go through this. Andrew Coyne got involved in this and said this is the same easy run before the mob populism as on the potash file. Why have usage-based phone bills or electricity? Which was a question that Tony Clement decided to respond to. He said this is about forcing a single business model on all competitors. I'm for market choice. I guess you're not. To which Andrew Coyne came back. You're for market choice? So open up the market to foreign competition. Crickets? Yeah, I thought not. To which Tony Clement came back. Funny, but I don't remember kudos from you after I allowed Global Live to compete. More crickets. Andrew Coyne, come on back in. So instead, you substitute your own business judgment for that of the industry, forcing upon them a business model so ludicrously uneconomic that even the CRTC wouldn't go for it. That's some market choice to the left of the CRTC. Really? You're asked why you refuse to allow competition in one area, and your answer is that you were not adequately praised for another? Andrew can't spell. This is just the way he did it on Twitter. And, you know, sometimes there's short forms. Tony comes back. No, Andrew, my response was to illustrate the inconsistencies of your position. Once again, why allow CRTC to force only one business model? I stand up for consumers, Clement said. For consumers, creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs, that's worth all the brickbats you can throw at me. Now, this actually went on for quite a long time. That's just a small chunk of it there. But, Donald, I do want to ask you a question. First of all, we got to acknowledge, in this day and age, when politicians are so, you know, led around by a leash, and there's, you know, their handlers are so fearful about them saying anything without having it checked and vetted 8,000 times, I think you got to be very impressed that you got a minister here who had the guts to sort of engage with a guy who's a pretty smart journalist and, you know, has his views on this and is a pretty smart whippersnapper. Having said all that, you're a conservative. Yes. You're a small c conservative. And I want to know if that is kind of reflective of the discussion that small c conservatives are having all across the country on this issue.
It's interesting. I found it in two perspectives. There are a lot of, most conservatives are generally for free market competition, that kind of the spirit of competition. This exchange was quite interesting because I haven't quite seen it get that heated. It's not exactly a political issue. I don't think it's rather not a partisan issue for starters. We saw the NDP decide to hold a rally about a week ago on this issue. They were trying to take up the mantle on this. I don't think it's related to that. As far as within conservative circles, though, we all agree that the practice of UBB, usage-based billing, is unfair. Many of the conservatives I've spoken to, and some of the people from all sorts of parts of the political spectrum, agree that this is the CRTC overstepping its bounds. The bigger discussion isn't necessarily, especially in conservative circles, not the UBB issue, but more the reach that the CRTC has. That's where, especially in the conservative